What's going on, Cancer? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot and Friends. Justin here. You feeling fiery? Because the moon is in Aries. I'm feeling fiery. I love a moon in Aries. I find whenever the moon gets in a water or in one of the fire signs, that's always lighting up a lot of my placements. So yeah, I do enjoy. I mean, she'll square my sun too, but that's fine. It's a small price you pay. But this. I do. I love a moon in Aries. This is a time to get active, to get the blood pumping, to get the energy moving. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk all about this here in a moment. But if you are new here, again, welcome. My name is Justin, and know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and she loves that. But it's also a place for if you happen to have Cancer in your placement. Sun, moon rising, maybe Mars, wherever. This one's for you. And I do tarot card spreads based off that lovely luminary, the good old moon. Yeah, I'll talk about what sign she's in, what phase she's in, when she's going void of courses, all them lunar shenanigans. And just so y'all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope, Cancer. Now, let's get into it. Because yes, I do. You know that there's, Aries has always been an interesting one to examine, even as like a whole. Actually, just met a little Aries not too long ago, but you never see them coming. They always just kind of just burst in there. It's like, where'd you come from? But before we get into that, I'm gonna shuffle your cards here. Depending on when you're watching this, happy Sunday. The sun, wildly enough, is associated with Sundays, and this I find is a really great time to one, I think, to let your inner light shine, in the sense of thinking about the ways you connect with like your divine goals in life, that inner calling, the things that you were here, that you were meant to do, and those things that if you really sit with them, like this is where I feel my life going. Those are sometimes I feel like to work with the sun, because the sun is an interesting one. It is your life, your light, your vitality, and I also think that it is a great time to take care of your health. I think is a great way of making sure you're getting enough sleep, seeing how what you're doing to fuel this body. But I don't think it's really just like the kind of the material kind of physical things that you're doing too. I think that it does require that what actions keep you in touch with source, keep you in touch with spirit, keep you in touch with those lights. What is that fuel looking like for you? Do you just all types of things. How well do you feel and not just this body, but just like the inner you, some interesting things I kind of was thinking about with the sun. But one thing, I haven't mentioned this in a little while, one thing I also like to do with these like Sundays, or depending on the day of the week, is to reflect on what is your relationship with your sun placement. The sun is usually if people don't know anything else, they usually know what their sun sign is. And I think that this invites you, though, to think about it in not just that sort of superficial type of sense. Like, let's say your son's in Cancer. People just like, oh, well, emotional about the home, the family, where there may be like, there's some truths maybe behind that, but there's more nuance to Cancer than that. Being ruled by the moon, being in touch with the watery elements, understanding the modality of it. I think that a lot of the times it can pay Cancer to be a little more passive than they really are to be. And I think that you see that with all of the signs where they have these sort of stigmas. But I invite you to transcend that stuff and to be more nuanced with who you are, because you're more than just your sun sign. But it all starts with that how well you know that source, that light, that thing that fuels this body. So just some things to think about with the sun, but let's not let him take the show here. We're here about the moon. And on the 5th of January, the moon is going to be entering into Aries at about 11 o'clock a.m., and that's going to be Pacific time. And I'll talk about the first quarter phase in a moment because I have a chart for that. But first, I wanted to talk about just Aries energy in general. Aries are ruled by Mars, so there's that action. Mars is that call to drive. Mars can be a little aggressive. They're a little violent sometimes. There's some very unsavory aspects of Mars as well. He's known as the lesser malefic, so that bodes well. If you have a day chart like myself, Mars is our trickiest planet to work with, and I see it. especially as I had when I was really starting to work with my chart and starting to question more things, and especially checking into Mars. Mars was one that would really kind of catch me off guard. Granted, it's conjunct Venus, so usually Venus kind of kept things, I think, under control. But as soon as I started really tapping into more heat, Mars really is like, oh, Mars is like, oh boy, where you been? And so, but Mars keeps us alive. Mars is that sense of battle, and to that bravery to take on life, courage. Those are the higher expressions of Mars. And then you talk about Aries; they're the cardinal fire sign, masculine in nature, so everything about them is just active. Whether this is physically active, I've seen a lot of Aries that have this. I think Aries is a very innovative sign, very creative. I don't think that gets talked about enough. I think that you could just see that sort of hot-headedness, but a lot of the Aries that I know are pretty chilled, actually very pleasant. This is surprising. It's similar to Scorpio. You're not like what you would expect based off if you think of the traditional sort of definition for Aries. And that's why I think you have to look at it more, so kind of break it down like that. Think about their ruler and how they're working with that ruler. And that's something too, to pay attention to what Mars is doing while the moon is there. And Mars just happens to be in Cancer. And let's talk about the chart here. Let's get into this first quarter here. But Aries is about, before I wrap up, but last thing I want to talk about Aries. Aries is that initiatory action, but it's more so when you feel that rush of, because when we're talking about fire, that's our passion, the inspiration, the creative spark in you. And when when that's wanting to be expressed, I find that Aries is the one, like, they just do. That Aries energy, it's just meant to just create, just to be prolific, abundant, even. So that's just some things I think to think about. Think about where you might be holding back, with Aries, and not really living up to your fullest potential, in a sense, with the moon in Aries. But let's go ahead and get into this chart here, because the moon is going to enter into the first quarter. She does every lunar cycle. And the first quarter is what happens when the sun, circle the sun here, who's chilling in Cap, and the moon, hot in Aries, form a square with one another. And the square is when the planets are 90 degrees apart, and they're Martian in nature. So there is this, sometimes it can bring about this call to action. There's a bit of frustration, some challenges that may come with the square, but usually there's a need for something that's needing to be resolved, in a sense. And when we talk about the first quarter, this is the action phase of the seeding process. Now we've done the research in the waxing crescents. Now it's like, okay, I know the workout that I want to do. Let's do the first day. Let's go take that first lap. Let's start that new diet. Let's buy the tickets for this trip. Let's go ask that person out. That's what the first quarter phase is about. And nurturing that, taking that seed, again, that the moon has received from the sun, and just giving it life, it's just taking more form here. And what's really interesting, what I like about this square, is the square that happens, couple of things actually. The square I find in particular between the two cardinals of Capricorn and Aries. Aries, again, is like right now where Capricorn, and I was talking about this in another video, but Capricorn is like, I'm going to do it in a little bit. But they're going to do it, but Capricorn is building the plan. It wants to have the foundation laid out, that Saturnian nature of Capricorn. But Aries, in that Mars, is just like, no, let's just go build it. Let's just go out there. I'll figure it out as I go. And I think that this square is trying to find that balance of what actions can I take, what little things can I get started, so that I don't try to take on too much and go in this thing kind of half-cocked. That's what I get when we're talking about a square between Capricorn and Aries. But another thing that's really kind of special about this particular first quarter is that if you follow the lunar cycle in like the kind of 2.5 year phase, this would be 9 months from when we had that big eclipse that happened with it was the moon, the sun and the moon, of course. I think Chiron was involved. Venus was, I think, in Aries, and Mercury was there. I'm not quite sure. It was a really big I'd have to go back to see how many planets were involved with that. Like, it was a big old party. But this is now we're at the first quarter of that phase. So if you set any intentions for that new moon cycle, would be a great time to pull out that vision board or that list and see what has been taken off and what are some things that need to get going. I'm kind of glancing at mine right now, and I see a couple things that I can get going. For the most part, a lot of the things are the ball is rolling on a few things, but there's some other things that I could definitely improve on. So, and that's where the first quarter is at. It's like, I know what action I need to take. Let's get to action then. So that's what this would be. But just in general, this is a time for taking some action. And I think too, there's something kind of unique about this thing too, because this is the last time, at least for a number of years, the nodes, the North and the South node, are finishing their time in Aries and Libra, and they're about to move to that Virgo Pisces axis here soon. I think on the 11th. Let me get my ephemeris real quick. On the 11th, yes, that's when they're going to officially enter into those signs. And there's something here about some kind of like, this is more kind of intuitive here. There's something about like this is a great chance before, like a prime opportunity to really get some things going and before the door closes, and then you have to look for alternative ways to find something here. So it's like striking while the iron's hot. And I think that that's something to think about too, just because last little thing I want to talk about here is that the Mars and the moon are in mutual reception right now. They're forming a square by whole sign, but they're in mutual reception with one another. And to me, that gives me intuitive guidance. And the action, Mars is giving the fuel for the feelings that the moon normally feels. But I don't know, there's something, when the planets are in mutual reception, actually I can go ahead and switch over here. But when the planets are in mutual reception, they are able to communicate with one another. You know, even though Mars is in his fall in Cancer, the moon can help him guide things through. Maybe the moon's house is changing all the time. So he's just like, what the F? She's like, it's fine, I got you. So, you know, that's how the mutual reception kind of works there. And I just feel like there's this knowing, not just getting the feeling, but taking the follow through with this thing as well, whatever it is intention that you're wanting to do. So, you know, think about some actions that you wanted to take, maybe some bigger intentions that you wanted to take, and yeah, kind of run with it, see what happens with it. But another thing, there's something about the responsibility of the mission, I think, and I know this is getting a little, this is some things that I've been kind of meditating on, that I think there's something in the responsibility of this, of seizing the moment, because the sun would have just, oh, I guess I do have one more thing to talk about on this chart. The sun would have just separated from Saturn in a sextile. Here, let me circle those two real quick. We'll just throw the midheaven in there, that's fine. But the sun just separated from Saturn, and to me, there's an opportunity for something to form here with the sextile to Saturn, because it's separating. But again, that's why I feel like just like something, a window is closing on something. So if you've been putting off something for a while, or if something specifically has been on your mind, go for it. You know, maybe you want to travel a new place. Maybe you want to join a group. Maybe you want to try a hairstyle, experiment something, but just make that thing happen. But now let's talk about the Sabian symbol for this one, and then we'll get into the reading, because this I found very interesting. The Sabian symbol for this is definitely not 348. It's phase 17 of Aries. And let's go ahead and change that. But it's definitely phase 17 of Aries. And this is two dignified spinsters sitting in silence. And the keynote for this is the ability to transform a natural lack of potency into poise and inner sanctuary. And to me, when I think about a spinster, you know, this is someone who wasn't able to fulfill maybe that, the quote unquote, the role, the typical, maybe like getting married, having kids, the that type of role. Someone who's unmarried, you know, alone, maybe who was more kind of focused on their career or something along here. But there's something confident about There's something here in this Sabian symbol. I think about sitting in confidence in the decisions that you make in life, and where people might think that might be a disadvantage for you to not go one way, but to have that poise and inner sanctuary and have that peace for where I may be lacking the potency of support, possibly, it could be one way this manifests, that I am able to believe in myself and to go on my journey confidently and, yeah, unashamed. You know, there's something about here about just being in your that Aries energy, not worrying about what other people think. Like, I'm just gonna do it, and either you're with it or you're not. And I don't mean something that's just, you know, like it's lowering the vibration. This is something that is, it's an inner calling, you know, when we're thinking about, when I talk about fire here. And I think that these two dignified spinsters are two, the people that you tend to attract when you do kind of follow that path. And sometimes when you're going on that path of growth and things, that can be a bit of a lonely journey, but you do find your tribe in the end. So that's another thing that I think it's like, and it's, this too is just, it's giving me this, yeah, that again, what may have seemed like a disadvantage actually turning out to be an advantage in the end. It's just like people may not be able to see your vision, but it's not about them. You're the one that's building the vision. So that's just some things I think to think about here. I think that there's a time to not, and I must go ahead and switch over here, but I think that this is a time, especially if you've been worried about what other people may think, or if other people have been putting your stuff down, this is a time to be in your power, you know? So just some things to think about. And if you want to understand your power a little bit more, work with your chart of these transits more intentionally. Down in the description box below, I have a link for all the services that I provide, so definitely check that out if that's something that's resonated with you. We can talk about your solar return, lunar return, do some tarot card reading, whatever that might look like for you. So definitely avail yourself of that if that resonates with you. But last little thing here, these readings that I do, they're not gender-specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And then before we jump into this thing, I'm going to ring this bell to bring in just some lovely vibrations here to really set the mood. So adjust your volume if you need to, but let's get into this thing. Let's see what's going on here today. Ooh, look at this. So you have the balance card here, which is a card of centered energy and self-care. And to me, this balance, one, I'm getting a picture of the Two of Pentacles. There's this figure in the Rider White Smith deck, that this figure is like juggling these two pentacles here, and it forms this kind of lemniscate. And I'm thinking about, there's this thing of finding the balance between doing the things that you want to do and the obligations maybe in life is one thing, but there's this coming together of opposites. Maybe you wanting to, how to have the career and be the parent, how to, yeah, I'm not like something along those lines as far as, maybe even too like I'm even getting like a justice card or an adjustment, and maybe even more so like a temperance card, where there's a need to go within and find oneself. I feel like maybe even there's been this like balancing of roles here. Maybe you've been playing some sort of part, you know, if that's something that resonates with you. But now there's this time to do just some more things. I mean, looking at how this person's all set up, like he's been putting on just like this act, or just like, you know, doing a bit or something like that. And yeah, let's get a little bit more on that. Let's see what the past energies are. Let's get a card on that and see what's going on here. Okay. Thank you, Spirit. So you have the Three of Wands in reverse. And with the Three of Wands, this to me, one is, there's a longing here that I'm seeing, that I'm kind of sensing from this figure in the Three of Wands. This wanting to get out in the water, to go out on this thing, but something is stopping her from doing this. You know, she's not living in her true, her authenticity, like living her authentic self. Something here, and it's like there's something that's wanting to be balanced out, like as far as like there's an area that's needing to be explored with this Three of Wands being here. Something is not feel like it's being met, or that it's being fulfilled here. Yeah, it's like it's a waiting for something, like like that's what I'm getting, like a longing. But let's get a clarifier on this Three of Wands. Oh, there's my girl. Love her. Thanks, Spirit. So you have the Princess of Wands here. And the Princess of Wands, you talk about a firecracker. She's the will manifest. The princesses are very powerful cards, and the princes would be equivalent to like the pages. And because the princesses that represents the earth, the wands of course represent fire. So she's the earthy part of fire. She's the fire, the things. I partway think of this as almost like the fodder that fuels the fire. With the Princess of Wands. But there's something here about her going, it's like tapping into her potential with the Princess of Wands being here, giving that fire form, that sun squaring the sun, moon and Aries squaring the sun, taking that will and giving it some kind of structure here, and the self-care and the the intentionality that goes with that, and the work that it takes to show up and do the things each day. Maybe you're trying to balance a work and going to school or something like that, but I'm definitely getting here too, like there's like, if there's a will, there's a way. Let's get some view into the present. Let's see what's going on with the present energy here. It's like the princess she wants to be unshackled, you know? And I think that, let's see what the present has to say, but the princess, I feel like in the past has been, thank you, Spirit. So you got the Ace of Swords here. And in the present, you know, I think that there's a need to entertain this idea here. The princess wants to do something, and I think that there's more of a need here to take care. When it's talking about self-care, I feel like it's like there's this message of, it's easy to kind of root others on and to do something, but it's like when it comes to taking care of your own things, you know, getting centered in your energy. Yeah, this Ace of Swords is channeling into your original ideas here. I'm getting with this. If I'm remembering correctly, I think that the staircase is leading to like their pineal gland or something going in one of those real kind of deep recesses of the brain, and there's a call for like exploration here. because the air, the aces are the root of the element, you know, the seeds, and this is the root of thought. And yeah, I'm getting like a nurturing your ideas, even in a sense for some, you know, whatever that means for you. But let's get a clarifier on this. Oh, look at that. That's wild. So the Ace of Swords is clarified by the Ace of Cups. And so this is something that, you know, I think that there's this idea of wanting this sense of fulfillment. I love this Ace of Cups. I really do enjoy this. And I feel because there's just this, it's overflowing in a way that I think is just like, imagine these waves just kind of radiating throughout your body, you know? Get centered in that type of energy, especially when you're doing something that is filling you up. The exhilaration, that's something too, I think, with this Three of Wands. It's like, when was the last time you felt just alive? You know, just like, and it doesn't have to be doing something crazy, like, you know, jumping up, like bungee jumping or something like that, but just go getting on like a roller coaster, looking for adrenaline. But this could be, when's the last time that you maybe read a good book, got lost in your imagination? When was the last time that you went for a run? And you maybe been seeing other people running and thinking, yeah, man, that looks really good. You know, or something like that. There's this deep dive that's happening here in the present. Or I think there's an invitation here to tap into something. And I think that there may be even a need to kind of balance these feelings out, this to ride this wave that may come, these waves that may come for you. I love this, all this like geometry here. I'm looking at this Ace of Swords, this geometry. You got an infinity symbol here. Mercury's symbols in the mix. The Tree of Life is here. I think it's a symbol for sulfur. There's a lot of thinking, though, and a lot of feeling. And when those two together are coming, when a thought becomes a feeling, yeah, there's something potent about that. So explore that and see, because I feel like if you want to pursue something, you can balance it out. Let's get some future energy here. Spirit. Okay. So the future, we're looking at the Five of Wands here, and so it might be some work, might be a little frustrating. The Five of Wands, that's Saturn and Leo. And it's the strength to get to the big picture, to strength to get to the end here. You know, just thinking about this Five of Wands, and this is a card where Saturn doesn't do well. This is where Saturn finds one of the signs he finds his detriment in is in Leo. And I think it's that keeping that fire going in the face of challenges. How do you keep that light going when there is this impending darkness? You know, the cold. You know, you got Leo, such a fiery, bright sign. And then you have Saturn there, which by nature is cold and dry. And how do you, it's like trying to build a fire in the middle of a blizzard. Here's what the imagery that I'm getting with this Five of Wands, but it's not meant to be discouraging. You know, I find in those times where you feel pressed in things, there are little nuggets and little tricks and things that you learn. I was talking with someone about some, like, as far as like where I wanted to live and things like that, and they gave me they said something that I hadn't considered before. Like, I thought about it, but I hadn't really thought about it until something about how they said something. It was just like, that would be a little inconvenient, but the positives though, you know, like that it'd be interesting. But yeah, there's some work that's coming here in the future to keep this energy centered. And I think that it's making sure to take the self-care when things are becoming too much while you're trying to figure this thing out, because there's no earth present here right now. So doing some things I think to kind of ground you out too. Yeah, I think would be important as far as like, yeah. Oh, wow. So here's your Earth. Thanks, girl. Thanks, Spirit. So here's the Queen of Disc. Love that. So with the Queen of Disc being here, she actually, well, let's talk about that Two of Pentacles. The decans that she covers, the first two of Capricorn, last of Sagittarius. And this is, I feel like, a really great example of a queen who's used to working under oppression, working with maybe even limited resources. She's got a lot of fields she's working with, but it's like, what can I do with this land? I'm just looking at the imagery here. But she rules, like, she's associated with the 2 and 3 of disc and the 10 of wands. And so there's this need for balance in the work it takes to maintain that balance, to have to constantly change and shift under these kind of oppressive environments. But that makes the Queen of Discs, she's crafty. She's one that's resourceful because she's used to working in, she's been in, there have been worse situations with people like, well, how am I going to do this, and that? She's like, how am I going to build this house with 2 rocks and a twig? She's like, I've had no rocks and no twigs and got by just fine. Look at me throned. I know it's an extreme example, but I do think that there is something here about not pushing yourself too hard with the Queen of Pentacles. I think that even when it comes to resourcefulness, she can call upon a lot of physical energy too. You know, she can push the body through those conditions, but I think that she does have to be mindful of, going overboard a little bit. And sometimes being hard on herself, I see, is something that can happen with the Queen of Pentacles when she's not able to maintain that balance, or when it's too much work, when the task gets too much, you know. Very fast. She's given a lot. she's given a whole lot. So, this future. It's hard work, possibly. It doesn't have to all be hard work. Staying that centered, but it's going to be work, but it's going to be rewarding work, and I think that it's going to bring about just some new ideas here. But let's get some advice from Mars. I think Spirit. So yeah, the 8 of Cups in reverse here. And to me, the advice, I think that there's this path that whatever this thing is, the process of keeping things in balance, and I'm just thinking about this journey. There are things that it feels kind of fuzzy right now. There's something, how do I want to put this? You know what? I'm looking at this, how this girl's walking away from this. It's got this cup, and there's this fire that's in it. And I think that this is looking maybe at something that she kind of walked away from. Like when I was talking about that yearning, I feel like there's something maybe that was walked away from. That's maybe needing to be explored again with the 8 of Cups. And I think that there's something to, it's like not sure how something is going to be formed, or not sure how this is going, this next chapter, this next step is going to be, how you're going to keep yourself balanced, how you're going to keep yourself centered. But I think it's just, it's like there's this thing of needing to be adaptable. And because again, this is Saturn in Pisces. And I think that is learning to be trusting the feeling, the idea, whatever this thing is that you want it to be, and be centered in that. And just, again, keep nurturing that thing. And there are going to be things that test that, that balance that out. Some things that may need to be left behind, that may not keep that dream fueled, in a sense. But let's get a clarifier on that Eight of Cups. Okay. Spirit. So you have the Four of Wands here. And with the Four of Wands, and let's go ahead and switch back over. Because the Four of Cards is a card of completion here. And this is the Emperor, this is Venus and Aries. This is the Emperor and the Empress card, and there's just something about us seeing something coming to fruition here. The advice is to see something through, follow an idea through. Go claim that abundance. Be that's an odd phrase. Be the authority of your abundance. But And I think that there's going to be some things, in order to see something through, there are going to be some things that you may need to detach yourself from, that I'm getting as well. But that's just another little thing there. But I think that's all I got for you. So if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know someone who gets nuggets of wisdom from this. And subscribe to that Queen of Pentacles. Hit that bell button, get notified of these videos each day. And then last little bit, and let me get your surprise cards here. If you want to know what's going on with the other planets, the celestial bodies, that's that Celestial News Weekly. Down in the description box is a link for my other channel, Alchemist 8, where I do weekly videos talking about the transits and how to work with those energies as pragmatically as possible. So that's just something to think about there. But, oh, and all that's housekeeping, yeah, down in the description box below. But let's talk about your surprise card here, which is the card of surrender. And when we're talking about surrender, you know, there's a difference between surrender and giving up. You know, surrender to me is like surrendering the process, where it's like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. That kind of Eight of Cups in reverse. I'm not sure I'm going to get there, but I am going to get there. I'm just trusting the process to see it through to that Four of Wands completion. Whatever this thing is that, you know, that may be coming up for you in this. And it's a trusting in the spirit, of course, but I think it's a trusting in you as well that's kind of coming up here. You know, knowing that. And look, there's even, that even looks like the flame of a candle here, that little thing up top on this building. And, you know, in that self-centered, there's something here, like I'm being drawn to kind of the darkness of the castle here. And it's like how we have to kind of go within to find that inner light, to find that flicker flame, that flame, and keep it, and tend to that, and tend to, yeah, So, yeah, just something to think about. a lot to, I think, to kind of ponder here. So I'll leave that there, but oh, stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon. It's spatial awareness. And I will catch you on the next one. Speaking of Mars, Mars Day.